Polymorph.
Programme 3, Polymorph.
A contender for the best ever, I think.
Yeah.
In the fan club convention in Gatwick, Hilton, was it? I can't remember.
Yes.
A poll was taken.
God, the glamour of it all.
The glamour of it all.
Yeah.
It was, as I got out of my mini moke in the car park, I thought, yes, this is it, I've arrived, as the banner fluttered to the ground.
Right.
Yes, if you recall, we did a poll there. The most...
It was the funniest scene,
ever
actually.
seen.
Funniest
Yes,
scene.
Funniest
I
scene
think it's
ever.
without doubt the funniest
And
scene.
that came from Polymorph.
That's quite a... And there's a look attached to that, I think. Because when we wrote the scene with the groinal attachment...
Which is...
Well, actually, it wasn't actually going to go into his groin.
No, it was going into his chest.
It was going to go into his chest. And Howard said, oh, look where I put the... Was it even called the groinal attachment then? It was his vacuum hose. Look where I put it.
Yeah.
And it was on... Oh, Howard, that's so cheap. And it's just, we're a little bit cleverer than that. But, there's no time to move it.
That's right.
And then we played the scene, and I'd completely forgotten he still had it attached to him, to his groin. And so it then had this huge, great vac hose stretching across the sleeping quarters. And
You didn't come to rehearsals then?
no. I mean, yes, but on screen, it's just that it works. It works well. I remember offlining it around at your house.
Yeah.
And,
We were offlining it around. My mother, for some reason, was staying because she's looking after looking after our son. And she came in to see the section where it appears that, without ruining it for you, that Crichton appears to be trying to get Lister's trousers off and have sex with him. And I remember saying, as long as it's funny, it doesn't matter if it's rude. But, and she looked at the screen and I went, let's get a pizza.
And I remember Ed Wooden, the editor at the time, who was, in many ways, a terrible prude. And in many other ways, not a terrible prude. But he was very prudish about this scene, and he just
thought it was
offended him.
absolutely appalled, which made me even more hysterical. And I was sent off to get the pizzas, which involved a 10-minute walk, and I laughed all the way to the pizza house and laughed all the way back
That's
again.
right.
Yeah, but you always did that.
It's really just... Oh, dear.
It was, yeah. And we had, actually, on the night when that scene was being recorded, everything stopped. Everything stopped.
Well,
you couldn't hear
you
anybody
couldn't.
saying any lines.
Well, I've directed several hundred shows now, and I've never had a situation with an audience where they'd gone so bananas that you couldn't hear what was going on, you couldn't tell what was happening, the whole thing broke down. So we just fired off shots until they stopped screaming. Chris stood still and just carried on looking angry, bless his heart, for about 20 minutes while all this was happening.
He did, what a pro.
And there was a lot of good grovelling around and groinal business on the floor. It was an extraordinary scene to shoot.
Also, I think that scene involves, one of the greatest props that the series has ever featured, which it was the python. Remember the python?
Now, if you look very carefully,
you can tell, actually, there are two different pythons in that
Yes.
scene. One is a real python, and another one is, it's sort of...
Helen Keller could tell. Come on.
I remember
I
Donna
think you're
saying...
giving away professional secrets here. There's a lot of people who think that snake round Crichton and the one that goes into the laundry bin are one and the same.
Saying, Donna, the snake will look the same as a real python, won't it? And she said, it's a dead ringer. It's a dead ringer. And then you think, well, how could it be a dead ringer when you haven't actually seen the real live python? And we had to cut it in two, didn't we? Because it was about 25 feet originally.
Yeah, the live one. No, it was she. And the wrong colour. And
Wrong
everything.
colour and didn't look like a python.
Well, it's a big piece of material with a boingy spring in it, wasn't it? With a head on the front.
It was, yeah.
However,
It was.
How
can that happen?
However, having
How
said
can
that,
that happen?
well, I think it was great, and I liked it. And the way that Craig manipulated it into the laundry basket was
make
special.
it work in the edit.
Yes.
That's what you always say.
I've always said that. And then when it doesn't work in the edit, I always say it'll work in the dub.
Yeah,
and then,
grade.
And then I just don't turn up to the
Yeah.
Now, a very complex show to shoot because the polymorph creature itself all had to be shot in chroma key. And this was the first time, I think, I'd ever done a double chroma key matte, which is where you shot the monster.
Getting technical now.
I'm getting technical now.
Right.
Where you shoot the monster against blue and manipulate him to charge about, and then shoot the actors on blue and then shot the set and matched all through together in one go. And in those days, what we used to have to do is run all the tapes and try and push them all together on the day. And it came out with this excellent shot, which then featured in the opening titles, where they're pressing on a door button.
That's right.
And then the creature rises up behind them. And that was shot in 3 different sections put together, which in those days was quite tough to do.
And there was an animatronic polymorph as well.
That was the first animatronics we ever used.
Yeah, and the last, I think.
Yes, the last.
Yeah.
They're not very good, are they?
I was more convinced by the snake.
I went to see it in the workshop when it was being made, and it looked like, oh my God, this is going to be so fantastic.
It looked fantastic. The only trouble is, all it could do is fall over.
Yes.
But apart from that...
And it needed 10 people to make it do that, didn't it?
No, I think...
People crouching all over the place.
I know,
You can shoot like just this bit.
This is very unfair. It's excellent polymorph, and his lip curling business was great.
Yes, it's great. Yeah, no,
It
it's
did a lot
better
of
than
stuff,
Elvis.
yeah. And I remember also the laser bolt sequence. We were getting really ambitious with our effects then, and we actually shot that before the rest of the series when it was filming in Liverpool for some reason.
That's correct.
With 150 quid's worth of cardboard boxes.
Was it that much?
That's right. And I'd just seen Raiders of the Lost Ark, and I remember saying to you, "Don't worry, boys. In the edit, this will look like the big shot at the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark, where you have this long corridor of lots of boxes, and it just looked like a corridor with some boxes, and that was it.
And
But
then
that
will make it work in the dub.
And then I once again didn't turn up to the dub. But Polymorph, yes, it had the laser bolts, it had the creature itself. We also had a lock-off sequence where Polymorph changes into about 70 different things. And I spent about 4 hours on that, and then about 10 minutes on Kevin, the young polymorph, who had a camera inserted into his mouth and was scuttling around the studio floor.
That's right.
Yeah. And so there was a lot of sort of experimentation in that show, which sort of worked, I think.
Here's a little insight there for anyone who cares to know. The voice of Kevin, the young polymorph, was Mike Agnew, wasn't it?
Was it really?
Could well have been.
Mike Agnew, the
could well have been
floor manager.
That's a good.
And also, this particular show features my favourite prop, and still is amongst. I showed it to a 7-year-old.
More than the snake.
More than the snake, the killer kebab.
The killer. Now you're talking.
That was animatronics that worked.
Yeah. Now
that was a special prop.
That was fantastic.
For all those people who would like to know how that was done, we did it backwards. Thank you. That's all I can say.
Yes, watch that very
secrets. Very serious secrets.
The way it just sort of curled a bit.
But it curled around a bit. Yes, it was spectacular.
It curled a bit, didn't it?
Series 3, as a whole, that's when we got some real good producers on it.
Yeah,
for a change.
Yes.
Thank you.
Pros.
That's right. Some heavyweights moved in.
And we got rid of a lot of the cardboard, except for the boxes. But we got rid of the grey sets, didn't we? And allowed John Pomfrey to do his lighting stuff. Which he was great at. Yeah, new costume designer, Howard Burden.
Yeah. It was a new
and that silly Captain Scarlet green hat for Chris, which I never really was happy with.
That was in, though. That was first introduced, wasn't it?
Yes,
I remember that in backwards.
And I couldn't make up my mind about whether we should have that.
No, I think the answer was no, we shouldn't.
It was, in retrospect.
Yeah.
Yes. But yes, without a doubt, Series 2 was a big leap forward.
Well, we started to be able to afford, 2 guest stars a show. And,
it was just ridiculous.
It was...
Yeah.
And of course, by that stage, I've only got used to directing 4 people, and then suddenly brought other people in, and I was thrown.
Yeah.
And we did get out and about more, didn't we? I mean, there was a tiny bit in Series 2, nothing at all in Series 1, but we were able to do all that backwards stuff. And
yes, and the scene in the
when he says out and about, he means out of the studio.
Robert Llewellyn's first ever experience of Red Dwarf, which was at an hotel in Manchester, and he didn't even have the right voice then, and he'd just signed up, and he'd been up in Edinburgh, and he came down for the pre-film sequence, and his first sequence was in a
indoor heated swimming pool.
indoor heated swimming pool.
Which was boiling. I mean, it was boiling.
He didn't know at that point how hot the costume was anyway.
No, he didn't.
And he
does now.
He had at one sequence.
He really does now.
The sequence was he flipped open his thumb and lit a cigar for Craig who was sitting in a jacuzzi, and it keeps on short circuiting. It didn't work, and when it did, it caught fire. and he just thought, what have I let myself in for? He nearly died that day.
Yeah,
he lost, like 3 stones of water.
He was so upset about it that he wrote a book.
He wrote
a book about it.
Still
writing pamphlets and handing them out in the street. How angry he was about that as we speak. In fact, yes.
And it was cut out, wasn't it?
It was cut out.
Because the voice wasn't right.
It wasn't.
And he was crap. He looked like he was a bit hot. He was all hot and his thumb wouldn't work. And interestingly, we cut that sequence and then the gas advert started where everybody's thumb
That's right.
flicked,
And
and
it was Body Swap. Was it Body Swap? Yes, it was Body Swap, wasn't it? Right.